Guys, we are in the heart of bear country. And if you guys from Bath County are listening, we're in Warm Springs, and we just went to the, what was that diner place called? The Milk Market.
Milk Market.
The Milk Market, and got us a sandwich. It's called the Jackson. Different, but it was good. And then I got to tell you a funny before we get started into this. So we're riding around looking for a place to record. So we're basically just going around. So we come to the high school. Oh, there's a radio station. There's a front porch. They got some chairs. So I go and start beating on the front door of the radio station. Guy comes running out. He's like, hey, we're recording. I'm like, I'm sorry. So anyway, when he takes a break, he comes out. So we crashed. It's 107.1 radio station. And man, Dan has been more than gracious to us. He set us up with a place to record, give us some chairs, and give a shout out to them because we definitely crashed his live recording. So that's a first for the Houndsman XP, I'm sure. So today we have, you've done some traveling to get here. And like I said, I drove up to Bath County and met Luke Somles. Is that right?
Yeah,
I don't want to crash it.
That's it.
So Luke's from Ontario.
Yeah, Ontario.
And we won't give away the exact location. But Luke and I have been talking for probably well over a year now.
Yeah.
Back and forth, a lot of things in common. We've been talking dogs. We're gonna get into one of the dogs that they've got that's kin to some of the dogs that I have. But one of the things that interested me is when we started talking about the dogs is he was telling that some of his buddies run coyotes and bear. And that's what really intrigued the conversation and kind of hit it off. So we're going to get into that today. But before we do, I'm going to let Luke tell a little bit about himself, what he does, kind of how he got into hunting, and then we're just going to roll it from there.
Okay, yeah, I'm just an average weekend warrior. I've been asking myself the whole way here why you want to talk to me. But there's a lot of other guys that out there catch a lot more stuff than me. But anyways, yeah, I just got the love of hound hunting real bad, I guess. When I was a young little kid, through my uncle on my mother's side mostly. He was a foxhound man, which we coyote hunted a lot, and I tagged along with him as a little kid. And that's where it all started. And when I got a little older, hit about the time I could get my driver's license and go places on my own, had to have a coon dog. And we did a bunch of research and did some driving and went and got a bluetick coon dog puppy, and it was off to races from there.
So when you talked about you got into it with the coyote hunting, right?
Yeah.
What kind of dogs were they running back then?
They were running walker dogs.
Running walkers?
Running
not tree
walkers,
walkers.
yeah. There was no tree dog in again, that was my uncle that got me started when I was a little fella, and he had all running dogs, yes.
Yeah, it seems like, we've done a couple podcasts now with the running dog guys, and I guess that's a field that we really haven't explored too much into, and it's been so interesting for me to learn the things that they do. And when I interviewed Howard a while back, he said his dogs will pull up and tree stuff, and that was kind of, I didn't think that they had the tree in them. That was my opinion, that was my perception. Let me not my opinion, my perception. And when he said that, man, he's got to get on his because they'll just pull up out of a cornfield race on a coon and tree, and I'm like, well, I want that. I want the speed in the tree. Like, I want the speed in the tree.
I don't, and I listened to that podcast and found that very interesting. I don't know that that's a common thing. I think that might be maybe certainly down to certain lines more so. There may be some running dog lines that have that more in them more so than others. Most of the pure running dogs that I've been around didn't have a whole lot of that in them that I saw too much.
And they were strictly the tree and the running walker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I've been around other crosses since, like that was just the first ones I was around. In Ontario, coyote hunting with running dogs is probably the most popular type of hound sport there is. And I've been around since then other guys that are gun hunters, that have crossed in some tree dog here and there, or even some that use full tree dogs to coyote hunt as well. And they're just as successful. Doesn't usually work too good mixing the two, like full treeing dogs and full running dogs in the same pack. There's usually kind of some drastic differences there. But a lot of guys are very successful with treeing type dogs that hunt coyotes as well.
So what would be those differences? I'm kind of interested to know.
I don't want a lot of guys to jump down my back, but a lot of it is speed and stamina.
I got you.
You know, and holding up every day running, you know. But it's different styles. You know, I've got a good friend that hunts straight tree and blue ticks, coyote hunter only. And they're a group of older fellows. They don't like to leave the countryside too far, and they only run as hard as they're being pushed. And these guys kill a lot of coyotes with just 3 or 4 old blue tick coonhounds, you know.
Well, and I'm gonna jab at Chris Powell and Jacob Campbell. That's the reason they're using them, because they ain't gonna get treed anyway.
Yeah. I started out with blue ticks, so I'm not gonna say it.
Oh no, I'm just ribbing them. them. But the other thing you said there is, I had some friends that deer hunted with dogs, and they were using the running dogs, the treeing dogs, kind of mixed together, and they said that they pushed the deer too hard; they couldn't get shots.
Sure.
So then they went to the short-legged beagles, and then they weren't moving them enough, and then they ended up going to the long-legged beagles, and then they actually crossed to some hounds to get that fine balance that they were looking for. Now, I know everybody's not the same, but that you said that, and it was like, oh yeah, you know, that's my buddies told me they kind of did the same thing. They didn't want the deer blowing through the country, and at the same time, they wanted it to move enough to be able to get a shot, but they didn't want it not moving at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that makes perfect sense. So Luke, what style of dogs, before we get into what you hunt and how you hunt, what style of dogs are you have? What do you have? How many you got? What are they?
Well, right now I'm hunting coyotes and bears both. And that's something maybe we'll jump into like we talked about later. A lot of guys are using the same dogs for both. Personally, I am not yet at this point. I told you a little earlier, I used to primarily just hunt coons and coyotes, and got bitten by this bear bug that's kind of taken over my life the last few years, and pretty well quit coon hunting, and I still coyote hunt in the winter. That's what you do in the wintertime when you live in Canada. But the problem is my last 2 good coyote dogs are old, like 11 and 13 old. So I'm at a point where I need to make a decision. Do I train up a couple more running dogs, because they're both straight running Walker foxhounds? Or do I make that decision and start to use the same dogs for coyotes as I'm using for bear? A lot of guys do it with great success. I've been very trigger shy myself to do it for certain reasons, you know.
Well, if you don't mind, let's talk about that. And I know you and I have before, and don't shoot yourself in the foot, but like, I understand, you know, I've been to Canada. You and I, we'll get into that here in a little bit. You know, I've been to Canada a couple times hunting, and you guys are allowed to hunt over bait sites. And I know with the technology improving, i.e. trail cameras, that what I have seen is that there may be several bear through there on the night, but there's also going to be some coyotes coming along and filtering through pretty much all through the night.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Like, and it's a regional thing too. There's coyotes everywhere. But where I live, I'm kind of on the border. Where I live and where I hunt a lot, I'm on the border of what I would call, you just go a few minutes south and you're into pretty good agricultural farmland. Just go a few minutes north and you're into what I call the big country. No more farmland, Canadian Shield, Rocky. And the further north you go, there's still coyotes. There always is. Not near as many as there is in the south. But right where I live, like I run 6 or 7 baits, and we got the cameras on them. And there's literally day or night, not an hour that goes by where there's not a coyote on the bait. So you got to start a bear, and maybe it's only 2 hours old, maybe it's 4, maybe it's 8 hours old, but there's a coyote track within an hour. Lots of times 15 minutes every time.
So is that why you're hesitant to do the both?
That's the number one reason. Yeah.
And like I said, it's been 20 years since I've been there. What when did y'all see? I know your spring. When did they open the spring season back up?
Oh, it's been, and don't quote me on this, my memory's getting terrible, but it's been several years now. It might be going on 10 years now.
Really?
Yeah. Maybe not that much. Maybe I'd have to look it up
Yeah.
to be exact. But.
So you have your spring season,
Yeah.
and then your fall. How long does your fall season last?
So our fall season, where I live, is September 1st to November 30th, which sounds like a real long season, but you basically figure on your season going to about the end of October instead of November. Reason being, the first 2 weeks of November is rifle season for deer. Mm-hmm. The woods is full of people. We can still legally run bear, just kind of the courteous thing. I think it goes on everywhere. You try and stay out of the woods. And then after that, it leaves you the last 2 weeks of November. At that time, there could be lots of bears out, or we could have a foot of snow and they're denned up. So. And
how does the food crops affect your hunting season?
Big time. Like you said, we hunt off baits, and I really enjoy the spring hunting because the bait is very effective. Not so much early season, but we can pull in bears from all over the country the further on in the spring season. Mm-hmm. Fall is a challenge. I mean, you guys see it here. You see it all over. You can't compete with natural bait. You can have the prettiest bucket of jelly donuts there, but they're running over top of it to get to those acorns, or where I live, to those cornfields.
Hey, so let's just get to this right here about the donuts, because I'm a cop and everybody likes to.
I didn't mean anything by it.
They're not donuts; they're power rings.
Yeah,
and that gives that bear all that energy to run.
Yeah,
eating those power rings.
Yeah.
So we don't use the term donut anymore.
It's funny you say that. We're all the time looking for bait, and I got line on some for 2 or 3 years in a row. These big bulk tote bins of bait, and I had to drive a couple hours to get them, but it was cheap. And when I got there, they were actually seconds in energy bars. Mm-hmm. And I took them, but I thought, man, am I shooting myself in the foot here? I'm pumping these bears full of I'm making them run harder to catch.
That's right. Hey, that just helps your dogs get in
Yeah.
shape. That's all it does.
Yeah.
So how many dogs you running now?
So bear dogs alone, I guess I've got 4. I never call them finished, but 4 dogs that I'm starting to depend on pretty good. And 1 young dog. What have I got there? 4 and 1 year old. This was his first time out. That's what I've got currently for bear dogs at the moment. And 5. Let me see. Yeah, 5 good running dogs and one yearling. This was his first spring. And 2 old coyote dogs left.
So you got 7 total.
7, yeah.
That's a good number. It's I've got double that, and it's a headache.
Yeah, I've got a little puppy too. Sorry, I've got a little 4-month-old puppy as well. But yeah,
what breed is it?
He's again, we talked about that. I'm not going to call him Kemp bred, but he comes from a lot of Kemp bred dogs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said, during our conversation, you said that your buddy had a male that he had got from Mike. And that you had bred it, crossed it with something.
Yes.
And let's talk about that litter, because that's something we talk about a lot. Is, how the litters turn out, how they, they work. And you and I were just having this conversation. So, how many pups were in that litter?
I believe there was 7 total. 1 died very young, and leaving 6.
And how does that litter, so if you got 6 left, how is that litter overall?
So overall, like, they're kind of few spread out across the countryside, but overall, extremely pleased with the litter. Starting at a very young age, doing some stuff that kind of blew my mind. Very young, very happy with them. The bulk of them, none of them are perfect. They all have some flaws here and there, like any of them, except for 1. 6 or 5 out of these 6 are doing as good as any young dog I've ever had at that age do or seen, and 1 is doing absolutely nothing, which is a topic in itself as far as I'm concerned. It's been a real, I know we all know they don't all make it, but to see how the rest of them started so quick, so well, and to have the 1 at this age, and I think they're like 17 months now, and nothing out of that 1.
Well, and like I said, we won't give the podcast away, but I recorded a podcast with a feller. If you guys are listening, you've either already heard it or you're going to hear it. That said he had a female that was literally 2 years old, 2.5 years old, and never had done anything. and now he's won 2 national championships with her. It's like she took off out of the blue and just couldn't stop winning. So, we had that conversation, is how long is too long, and we've talked about it on the podcast before. I think it's up to each individual and what they're comfortable with, what they have tied up. You said that. So who has that dog?
Actually, she went to I kept her for a long, long time. Like, I always keep a couple out of a litter, and I ended up, there comes a point where I've got to make a decision when they're really starting to be pushed. And she went to a friend of mine, actually, for a coyote dog. And he spent a long time with her as well, and still nothing there.
And she's 17 months.
Yeah.
She may be you never know with a dog. Like, I've heard, I actually know of some dogs that were 3 years old before they done anything and made top-notch dogs. But you just never know. Like, if they keep fooling with her and giving her opportunities, she may flip that switch one day.
Maybe the question, and maybe your podcast will touch on that later, is what those late starters like that, what did the rest of the litter do? Like, we're comparing it to a bunch that started at 7, 8, 9 months old. I'd be curious about these dogs you're talking about, how if the rest of the litter was the same or totally different.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, when you're raising, like, I try to keep tabs. Well, let me just put a disclaimer in there. I have went through periods in my hound hunting that I have not taken very good records of who got what, where they went. I kept up with it out of the get-go, and then I've lost track. And I've actually got me a notebook, and, like, especially the last couple litters that I've raised. And this is, actually, I've not raised a lot of litters up until a couple years ago, which I started back doing it. I didn't have nothing worth breeding to start with. That was the main thing. And, now I'm trying to keep very close tabs on where my dogs are at, what opportunities they have, because that makes a difference on whether they can or they do or do not perform.
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't even remember who I was talking to here recently, but the best dog is going to be the one that has opportunity to go hunting, and I don't care where you're at or who you are. So I'm trying really hard to keep tabs. I'm placing dogs strategically to people that hunt, and then I know they're going to have an opportunity. So I'm trying to keep very good records on these last 2 litters, especially, that I've had. And we all know if you got 5 out of 6, then that's pretty good odds.
Yeah, I'm tickled as could be with a cross like that, and we'll be making it again, Lord willing, but still a bit of a head scratcher with that last.
So you're going to make the same cross again?
Probably, or one very similar to it. I've got a half sister to her that I like. Their mother, I have her half sister that I like even better than their mother. She's a late comer with a heat cycle, and she's kind of a struggle to get bred. But we're going to try and make that cross with her.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, what? And you don't have to tell me what breeding is she? Is she a Walker, English?
So I'll just back up a little bit. When I started out in the hounds young, and I got that first dog, he was a bluetick, and I coon hunted pretty serious for a lot of years. Before I got bit by this bear bug. So when I started getting into these bears, of course, to this day, I'm a sucker for a bluetick.
You ain't worried about catching no game, are you?
So there was a line of dogs from upper Michigan. They weren't papered dogs, or that Michigan, Wisconsin area that had a pretty good reputation. Bluetick looking dogs.
Wasn't there a lot of Smoky River in those?
Not these particular ones I'm talking. These weren't papered dogs.
Right.
I had a lot of Smoky River in my papered coon dogs. And I started out with these guys chasing bear with those dogs. But as I wanted to get better, I was looking for stuff a little bit different. And these weren't papered dogs. I'm sure you guys have heard them. There's a line of dogs, upper Michigan, Wisconsin, Ray bred blueticks. John Ray, I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I have not.
So I did a lot of research and had a lot of guys tell me these are the blue dogs you want to run bears. So they intrigued me. Tried to get a puppy, and hard deal to get a puppy. Not many people want to give up pups. So I found a guy. I wasn't going to give his name away, but he had some. And they're not full Ray. He crossed a little bit of English dog in them. That was what he liked, but they had a lot of this Ray blood in it. So my dogs are kind of a lighter ticked, red tick, blue tick mixed looking dog. And my two best dogs at this point anyways, that's where they all came from. And it was one of those females that we bred to this Kemp male to make this cross.
Yeah. So let me just throw this out there for you blue tick guys, throw rocks at me. My first litter out of Spook was crossed back on a blue female.
Sure.
Now she was a mixed up dog.
Yeah.
Her mother actually went back to my old ring dog that you've heard me talk about. But Molly looked like an all blue dog, phenomenal trailing ability, super good speed. In fact, I tried to buy her before I bought Spook. I liked her that much. Sure. So anyway, I bred Spook. So just to put that out there, so y'all don't stone me to death. I'm just picking. But so what give you the bear bug? What is it? Tell us that story, because we've all have one.
Well, it's kind of long, but it's a funny story. I was coon hunting these papered blue ticks, and I was pretty serious about it for a lot of years. And we had a dog I was actually partnered on with a friend of mine. We were doing the competition thing and campaigning the dog, a blue tick male. And he was doing pretty good for us. And another friend of mine had a nice blue tick female, and he wanted to breed to our male. So we did. We made the cross, and he had a litter of a few pups, and there was two males in the litter. And we were going to get one for a stud fee pup, kind of. So my other friend, he called me up, and he says, geez, I had this young guy call me. He says he wants the other male, but he wants it for bear hunting. And I said, well, geez, these were kind of competition, independent-minded dogs. I said, well, I said, if I was looking for a blue tick to run bears, this would be the last cross I'd get one out of. But I said, heck, sell him one. I'm not going to take a sale away from you. So anyways, the fella came and bought one, and he was kind of just getting started with a bigger group of bear guys. And within, he'll know exactly, but 8, 9, 10 months old, by a year old, that pup he got was just a rock star of a bear dog. Not the fastest dog in their group, crazy trail dog, cold nose. Even later on when I went to hunt with those guys, he'd hunted with a group of guys that had hunted forever, and they told me, when that pup come along at 8, 9, 10 months old, we're starting older tracks than we ever started. Wow. Yeah, that's what I said. So when he was hunting and this pup got to doing real good, my buddy who raised the litter went and hunted with him, watched him, checked this bear hunting stuff out. And then he called me up. He said, you ought to see this pup go and come and check this out. So I did. I loaded up. He lived a couple hours from me. And we went, and they turned him loose, him and a few other guys, and we caught a bear, and that was it. It was Mary bar the door after that. Pretty well everything went downhill in life after that.
I know the feeling, and I have found through my hunting adventures that when people go, they're either bit or don't want anything to do with it.
Right.
Like, there's not a whole lot of in between. Like, take it or leave it. Like,
yeah.
When I was starting out years ago, and I'd take my high school buddies with me, about the first 5-6 miles into the woods, they were done. Like, they were done.
Yeah.
If anyone did make it to the tree, if we ever did tree, and that may be what broke a lot of people. We weren't treeing no bear. But I had several that, in fact, Wes, that you hunts with me now, he was a kid in high school, and he used to go with me when he was in school, and it always resonated, and now he's into it with us, and so yeah, I get it. I completely get it.
Yeah.
So
to me, that was. I love anything to do with hound hunting, whether it be running a deer or a rabbit with a beagle or a coon dog. But that was the pinnacle of it, seeing that big sucker sitting up in that tree.
And they're such a mystifying animal to me. And again, I go revert back to my teenage and early 20 years that you didn't see bears.
No.
Like, you just didn't see them. Like, you drive a country road long enough at nighttime, you're probably going to run up on one here now.
Right.
You didn't do that. And
okay.
I was 18, I think, when I saw my first bear deer hunting. And, I couldn't get over myself. And then, like I said, then a couple years later, my buddy ended up shooting one, and I mean, I was done. Like the dogs, it was done.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the first time too that I really realized how, I don't know the word to use, but how significant that dogs had played in my life. And then when I realized that I could take something that I was passionate about, which was hunting, and add a dog to it, like you said, it was the pinnacle of my, like,
Yeah.
you don't top that for
Yeah,
me. Yeah.
exactly.
So, no, I completely feel you. So, how was your spring season's over?
Yeah, ended June 15th. Yeah.
June 15th.
Yeah.
How did that go? Like, how'd your dogs do? What was you starting young dog? You're 17-month-old.
Yeah, well, she started last fall, so and I mean started good last fall, but this would be, you know what it's like. That first one they start, the next season is kind of their best start, right? So anyway, she did real well. Overall, really happy with the dogs, how they performed. Had some injuries, always seem to be battling injuries. So that's never fun.
Was that bear injuries or was just running injuries?
Bear injuries, yeah.
The Journey on Houndsman XP has teamed up with One TDC. This dual-action support for oral health and mobility in our dogs. This unique supplement is so effective that it is recommended by top veterinarian experts worldwide to maintain and improve our dog's health in 4 different areas. Their oral health, hips, joints, and muscles, skin, coat, energy, and recovery. Guys, I've been using this product for the last 6 months, and it has been a game changer for me. If you're looking for something to help with the overall health of your dog, go to worksowell.com and give this product a try. It is highly recommended by Houndsman XP here on The Journey. Do you like to be outside like I do? Hunting, fishing, hiking? If so, onX is the app for you. I've been a loyal onX user for years. It's the one app that I can honestly say I use daily. While hunting, I know where I'm at all times. I mark trails, bedding areas, feeding areas, and the list goes on. In my travels, I use it to pre-scout all the new places that I am blessed to hunt. Last year while hiking Yellowstone, I used onX to map out the trails and know the difficulty of each one. And here's a secret. I mark all of my favorite fishing spots on onX. It's been a game changer for me at work. I've used it multiple times to get in touch with property owners. onX has so many great features and tools, you can literally use it in your everyday life. It is by far the best mapping app on the market. And hey, it's approved by yours truly at Houndsman XP. So when you go to subscribe to onX, use our code HXP20 and get you a discount. So get your journey started with onX and know where you stand. I wished I could come out, and I was, I got to redact that because I was going to say last year was pretty good for me, but Trip got wrecked in training season back in September, and he was out the rest of September, October, and I took him to North Carolina in mid to end of November, and got him on another bear, which I honestly didn't think he'd go because he got beat up so bad. Right. But I mean, there it is. But I mean, it'd be good if we could scathe a season without having to pay a hefty vet bill. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good. It doesn't seem to happen, though.
No, it does not. And I'm pretty fortunate with the pack that I'm running now. Him and Kate's gotten a little smarter. She's got older. She may get a bite. She may end up with a bite mark or two. But when she was 2 years old, same thing. She got bit down right behind the shoulder blades with a big bear. We ended up killing. We walked that bear from 8 o'clock in the morning, literally till right at dark. And it was probably an hour before dark. They caught it on a ridge. We were trying to get into it, and it broke and ran. The dogs come back towards me. I just couldn't get down to cut them off. And I noticed that she was way behind. So I stood in the path and waited on her. And when she got there, like she was still going, she was still on their track, but I mean, she was ready. Like it.
Yeah.
I had to lay her up. That was the first week. I think I had to lay her up the rest of the season. Like she got bit that bad down through the shoulders. And she, I'm getting some holes in her here and there, but nothing like that. And then now Trip, he's doing the same thing, and hopefully those big bear in North Carolina make them.
Yeah.
They make them have a little bit of respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't run in and grab that little bobtail there, but so that's always a concern with the dogs getting tore up. I mean, it's like
I have a couple that I will say, I'm not saying my best. I think they're my best dogs. They're my favorite dogs, but they're probably too bad about that. Like, they're my best dogs, but it's always 2 weeks into the season they're out because they're hurt. So, I know myself personally, I'm a nut about grit too much. I put too much emphasis on that. Sometimes I wish I had some that would maybe back down a little bit, but I'm crazy about that stuff.
I've changed my thinking from grit to stay.
Yeah, I get it.
But at the same time, and anybody that bear hunts knows that sometimes you got to have a little bit of teeth to put them up. If they have a little bit, it don't take a mauling.
Yeah.
But if you have a little bit of pressure, it'll cause that bear to tree. Where if you don't, it's just going to walk and walk and walk.
For sure, the problem arises in those ones that aren't going to tree even with a little bit of teeth, right?
Yeah.
Because some of them are just never going to tree.
That's right.
So
I would just prefer mine to bay up tight. Bay from the rear end. I'd rather you stay away from the front end. That's where all the damage is caused.
The damage this year was two different dogs. One bad, real bad, and it's a long story too, but it was a unique situation. We actually had a sow bear, and it took a little while to figure it out. We had a sow that was real protective over two cubs, and these were big 2-year-old cubs. Usually, we've treated lots of them. Usually, there's no issues. For whatever reason, this particular sow, what was happening, we caught her once with all the dogs at one time, and she was ornery, so we tried to stay away from her after that. And the dogs were running through areas, and 2 different times, they were kind of running through her area on a different bear, and I'd have a dog peel off and tree one of these little cubs by itself. Never turn loose anywhere near her, just ended up there. And I'd have a single dog treed, and this sow was coming in from the side and tackling him. Oh, and wow. that's a bad deal, physically but mentally. Like, to me, I always say, if a dog gets hurt with their group, head to head, they can recover from that mentally most of the time, but if you're by yourself and somebody comes in from behind you and tackles you, that's a bad deal.
That's an ambush. So yeah. How did that? Have you hunted that dog anymore? And how was that recovery?
So that happened 2 different times, both in the same area. 2 different dogs. One, I was able to hunt again. Wasn't that bad, and she was fine. The other one, it happened 2 weeks into the season, and I never got to hunt her again. She's still recovering from that. She had a big hematoma, like a basketball, blood clot on her side, and a couple of broken ribs.
Yeah, those ribs got to heal.
Yeah.
So the female that you did hunt, did you see any hesitation? Did you see any change in her behavior?
I didn't. I didn't, that particular one. And she's actually, don't jump on it, she's a plot dog. I do have one plot, and she's got a lot of heart. She was certainly hesitant that day, like carrying her out of the woods. You'd think you'd never catch another bear again. But she only needed like 2 weeks off, and we were back in the woods. Now, we did do... I was going to say we didn't get on another bad one, but I'm lying. We did walk another monster bear that we never got killed. We walked it till after dark as well. And it's in these, what I call these juniper flats, these juniper thickets we have. I can't see. We're within 30 feet all day long and can't get a shot. I can't tell you what she was doing, but she never laughed at. I can hear her in there. So she was fine. She was, and I have a feeling the other one will be fine too, because she's been through this a lot. One of the same ribs she broke exactly 1 year ago as well on a bad bear.
So, well, and I guess that leads to, so did the dogs stay treed, or did they end up fighting the sow and did they come out?
So both of these times the dogs got hurt, we're off, like it's kind of like one fell out. You're in a heated race with another bear. One dog falls out, and we even actually end up treeing the other bear. And we go to that tree, and then you go back and you find this dog banged up and hurt. You know, 'cause, you know, you're sitting there, you watch your Garmin, you see one peel off. The rest are screaming, race, cross road, and tree the bear. What do you go to? You know, both times I felt sick. I should have paid closer attention and got there sooner, but who knows if I'd have made it in time, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and so, and I guess the rules in Canada, like no sow bears.
No, legally, like they don't want you to shoot any sows with this year's cubs.
Right.
We never kill any sows with
Right.
with any type of cubs, as hound hunters or whatever. But no, they don't want you to kill anything with first year cubs. But big second year cubs, like these big cubs that this sow had should have been kicked out already. Usually June they start mating, and they run them big cubs off. But for whatever reason, we've never encountered a sow with second year cubs that was that protective of them. Yeah.
So it's been, like I said, we were sitting here talking. It's been 23 or 22 years since I've been to Canada. Like, how of course how long have you been hunting bear?
6-7 years.
6-7 years.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't. And it's kind of funny because we were sitting here talking.
Sorry. Before I hunted bears with hounds, I sat in a tree stand like everybody else and hunted them.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I know a little about the population, if that's what you're getting at.
Yeah. So how has it changed? Has it changed? How? I remember, you know, we talked when I was going up to Bob's, and we were hunting, and it's so funny because I follow Sean Landrum. He is a muskie biologist that's in Canada, and he posted a picture in Algonquin, the park, and they were tagging some muskies.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, we hunted in Pembroke, around Pembroke, and it, like we killed a good bear there. We killed a 4 maybe 7 more, 410 something. That was the biggest
bear.
one. Yeah, that was the biggest one we killed. Most of the bear that we ran was in that 150 to 200 range, and of course that's back then.
Yeah.
Bob did pull us one time and took us down to some corn crops that were getting, and we call them stump hunters. Y'all know what I'm talking about. We let the stump hunters shoot them because they had been sitting there and hadn't seen any.
Yeah.
And then we ended up running them, and ended up I think they killed 2 from that. So yeah. So what has it changed? Is it different? Is a bear size still about the same?
Yeah, I mean, you get some 400s every year, and every year, you know, there's a couple of 500s or whatever, and there's definitely bears out there over 5, but yeah, to me, anything over 354 is a good quality bear anywhere in the world, really. But there's 5s, and there's some in the agricultural areas now, like we hunt some of this corn country at certain times of the year too, and there's animals in there that are pushing 6.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And not a lot. I mean, they're not around every corner, but when they get sitting in them cornfields, they can pack on a lot of weight fast.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the same thing down, you know, down east. I mean they've got soybeans, they've got peanuts, and they've got corn.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long to pack on 100 pounds.
Yeah, it's like I said, we run the corn a little bit once in a while, and I'm not saying it's my favorite, but your most action-packed days are always turning loose in the cornfield, and that could be good action or bad action.
Yeah, that's what I say. You don't know what you're coming out there with.
It's always the most action-packed days.
Now, back to the dogs switching. Now, do you have any problems with your dog switching to coyotes?
I mean, I have had plenty of times young dogs trash and stuff like that. You know, everybody goes through it when there's that. You got to get them broken, stuff like that. But there's the one guy in our group that has the Kemp male that I bred to. He religiously runs him all winter long on coyotes. And I've been hunting with him for all of this time, that many years. And I'm going to say I've seen that dog where I can confirm run a coyote maybe 4 times
during bear season.
During bear season, and you take a 5-6 year span. That's not very much, considering he's run every day on coyotes in the winter.
How does that happen?
All I can say is that dog truly loves bears more than he loves coyotes. Because we pull up and there's a 15-minute coyote track and a 4-hour bear track, and he's starting the bear.
Wow.
So that encourages me to try it. But on the other hand, I think, well, mine aren't that good.
Well, and two, I mean, I know that you and I had briefly discussed this. A lot of times in the winter, it's starting in the snow.
Exactly, yeah.
So you're putting him in the track and saying it's okay to do this.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of revert back to, some old timers and, even my old Frosty dog. And that's as far back as I can go, because any dog that I've had past that is I took Frosty out when he was 6 months old, and I was treeing fox squirrels in the edge of the farm fields.
Okay.
And I would ride the roads at night waiting, trying to find something to come. And it didn't matter if it was a possum, a coon. It didn't matter. If it treed, I turned him loose on it.
Yeah.
And I would coon hunt. I coon hunted that dog up till he was about 2 years old. And then I could turn around in the daytime and take him bear hunting. And I can count on one hand the times that he may have treed a coon in the daytime.
Right.
It was like he knew.
Yeah.
He never fooled with a squirrel again. He never fooled with a cat. Mm-hmm. And I think, dogs, I think sometimes we don't give them the credit they deserve because they know.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, and there's a lot of guys that do it with a lot of success, and they kind of use that snow to differentiate, and the dog gets to learn that snow means coyotes, bare ground means bear. Is the way I understand it, and I'm not saying I'm not going to try it. I've just been very trigger shy because it's everywhere's got coyotes, but there's a lot of them where I hunt.
Right. Yeah, and I mean they travel through you'll run in to an area and they'll be in there consistently, and then a month late, well, I'll just take training season, August, September, you'll hit a patch where there's coyotes in there, and then come December, they're not. They're in a different location. They're moving.
Right.
They're constantly moving that pack, and I'm assuming it's searching for food. I'm not a coyote specialist, but, but for me, I want to know what my dog's running, and I don't. I guess the thing that bothers me more, if my dog's crashing, okay, I'll take care of it.
Yeah,
I'll fix it whenever. But I don't want my buddies packing to my dogs if I'm not sure what they're doing. Yeah. And me and Wesley have this conversation quite a bit. I'm like, man, you never hesitate. He goes, well, he said, it'll work out in the wash. If they're not right, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
I think he's got a little more faith in me than the rest of the bunch.
Yeah.
But so that goes back to you. How do you feel about do you pack to that dog, or are you leery of it?
I've hunted with him long enough. I spent a long time being leery. Even from the time I started hunting, the very first time I hunted with, I didn't even have bear dogs, and I thought, there's no way. I just watched 2 coyotes on the camera. He's not starting that 4-hour track, and my mind's been blown from it from day one. But now I've hunted with him long enough. I'm packing everything I got to him because I firmly, and I've seen him do this in one of the 3 or 4 times. I still wouldn't like it that I've seen him actually run a coyote. I've seen him switch on the first bear he's crossed off on.
I was going to ask that.
Before we could get him caught, and he'll switch on he'll ditch the coyote and go for the bear every time.
So his heart is with the bear.
Absolutely,
then. Yeah. I was going to ask if he switched off, if you caught him switching any.
And it's just a matter of there's no bears out in the winter. He probably wouldn't be much of a coyote dog.
Yeah, but how does he do in those coyote races? Is he
pretty
a
good.
lead dog?
Yeah. Well, my friend that hunts him, he only hunts 2 dogs. He has him and one other dog, and there's a group of 3 of us that we all hunt together, and we all take our turns and hunt 2 at a time and by ourselves. But him personally, he only keeps 2 dogs, and this dog is one of them. And so he's his lead dog on bear and coyotes.
And he only hunts 2 dogs on both.
On both. catches a lot of bear with 2 dogs.
I've said it for years, especially the guys that are close to me. You give me 2 good dogs, that's all you need.
Yeah.
4 is a plenty.
Yeah.
Anything after that, and I'm like I said, I'm running 6 right now. I usually carry 6 dogs with me. Now I may not have all 6 of them down at one time, but that's kind of my number because of the amount of dogs I have. But I would have no issue, and I've done it for years. I have no issue running just a couple dogs.
For sure, yeah.
I mean, it's I've had a lot of success with it. In fact, my ring dog has treed more bears solo than any dog that I've been around. And he did. And if I put Smokey or Sam with him, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, and I've told the guys with me numerous times that we don't need 8 dogs. Like, bear's going to climb if he wants to climb, and he's not going to climb if you got 20.
Yeah.
No matter.
This whole thing, and you learn every day. It's been a big learning curve. But of course, when I started in green, I thought, you wouldn't climb a tree. Back in more. Get more in there. You need harder tree dogs, or you need. You're right. If he's not climbing 4 dogs or 10 dogs, he's not climbing. It doesn't make a difference.
And for me, like, I'm a little bit selfish. I'll admit it. That I like it. I mean, I'd like to take just 4 dogs and catch game.
For sure.
And back when I hunted by myself, that's how I did it. I usually carrying 4 dogs, and I caught a lot of game. And now that I hunt with a good group, it's just not that way.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes our dogs get split off and they tree, and Hot Rod's dogs will be treed over here, and Forrest may have something, and Wesley. But I mean, I'm okay with that, but there have been times I've been hollering on radio, get me some help.
Yeah.
Like, give me some help.
Well, that nice little deal we got, like the 2 greatest, best of friends, the 3 of us that hunt together, but we do all each take our days and go and hunt by. I want to hunt so much by myself and see what my 3 or 4 dogs can do. You know what I mean? And nobody gets tore up about that or hurt feelings. We're all good with each other with that.
And you have plenty of space to do that, right?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, again, where I live, it's on that border of agricultural and what I call big country, which means, in a nutshell, you're on the border of a lot of private, or going north and you're on a lot of what we call crown land, which is the same as your guys' state land. So when you say plenty of room, there's always gray areas. The private has much better, the areas with more private has better road systems, better access. I dare say some days it's easier. The harder part is people, getting into land that you can't be on and having to deal with that. I'm very lucky where I live. I've got a pretty good relationship with most of the people around me. Everywhere has, their one guy over here that you got to watch for or whatever. But, yeah.
How does that work in Canada? What if your dogs get on land or private land, I guess that's what you call it?
So I've not yet personally, I don't know, to be honest with you. I've not personally been in a situation where somebody's told me, no, I can't go get my dog. All we all ever ask is, can we go get our dogs? And as far as right to retrieve, I think they changed that. Don't quote me on any of this with the laws, whether it's legal or not. I think first step, ask the landowner. If they say no, next step, call conservation officer, game warden, and he can escort you on, I believe, is the process. So far, I've had a few instances where people were not happy about it, but in the end, and a lot of polite talking, they said, okay, go ahead and get your dogs. But I've been very lucky. I don't know what happens exactly if they say all out no, you're not going on there. I do know, I heard something, they changed a law recently that a lot of people are fighting against. You can now get charged for trespassing even if it's your dog on that property. Not you, if your dog crosses it. How that's all going to hold up in courts and stuff is up in the air. There's been a couple cases where it's popped up, and I don't know. They're pending court cases whether something like this is going to stick.
There are pending?
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting because, Virginia's, they're fighting the right to retrieve now, and they've got this committee with the stakeholders, and the problem that we're having is, the DWR is hiring people that are not hunters, which is not conducive to us. And then, you know, Virginia has got a lot of people moving in from out of the area, mostly the big cities that don't understand, you know, our way of life. And then on the other side of that, you know, you've got hunters that, you know, aren't truly respectful of the landowner's property.
Exactly.
And trying to form that relationship, you know, go ask and explain, encourage, hey, go with me. You want to take a picture? Go with me and see what we do.
We've done that exact thing.
Yes. And every time that I've invited somebody, a landowner that was hesitant, as soon as they're hesitant, hey, why don't you go with me? You got kids, you want to see a bear, take some pictures. It'd be a good thing for memories and picture book. I mean, they literally are like, oh, okay, yeah. And they jump on it. And then I've got a relationship with them. And the next time I go, they don't, it's no questions.
It's a great thing. Like, we've had the exact same scenario. And the big turning point usually is when I tell them I'm not taking my gun. I don't want to shoot the bear. I just want to get my dogs. And most of them are shocked. Like, they just think we're out there to kill bears.
Yeah.
And the couple actually had a scenario where we walked into a tree with a person that we said, okay, we're not going to shoot the bears, so they decided to come with us. It wasn't that far. And when we got there, they changed their mind and wondered if we would shoot the bear. When initially they didn't even want us on there in the first place, you know. So it can, people can change.
Yeah, you just gotta be tactful about how you do it. And you know, I've been apologetic a lot of times. You know, I'm sorry, my dogs are over here, and
you gotta be.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just have a little grace. Give grace. Yeah. So. Well, Luke, what's going to be big in Canada? Before we wrap this up, what do you got on your mind? What's your future plans?
Just keep hunting dogs. You know, I'm you know, trying to make these crosses. I get really excited about making these crosses, and that's my favorite part of it all is watching these young dogs make it or some not make it. That's the most exciting part. We all want to catch stuff, but I love working with puppies, and not much is going to change as far as big plans, but that's basically the path I'm going to stick to.
Yeah, when you talk about puppies making it, it's usually the ones that I have that don't make it, and everybody else's are superstars.
Yeah,
that's just my luck. But you know, I've got three. I've got some 3 months old, four. You know, they're coming 4 months old, and I've got Sass, and she's a 5-month-old, and I'm excited about them. But I had a conversation on the way up here with, you know, I call him my mentors, you know, Pappy, and you know, you just never know. The dogs have good actions. They have a lot of good qualities. I see potential, but you just never know how that pup's going to end up. And you know, we were talking about the timing and, you know, being easy with the younger dog and not wrecking them.
Yeah. And,
you know, you just never know what's going to happen. You know, every time you turn a dog loose, you never know if you're going to see that dog again. And I'm excited. I'm optimistically hopeful. That's what I am with these pups.
That's all you can do.
Yeah. So, and you know, we're trying to work it out where I'm going to try to get up next year. I mean, I'm excited about it. It's like I said, it's been 23 years since I've been up there. So with the spring season and with your, you know, your help and graciousness, I'm going to try to make that trip next year. And, Maddie's she wants to come with me, and I hope everything works out and the stars align, because I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be a good time for sure.
I may have to borrow some dogs while I'm up there.
Yeah.
But.
Well, and the same thing. If everything were to line, I'd love to get down here, and I'm not saying I can make it to the top of these hills, but I would darn sure try.
Oh, well, you know,
these look like little ones here to some I've drove through, but
yeah, they're not very big. But, yeah, but I'm older, I'm slower, I don't get in a hurry. I do hit another gear when the dog's tree, but
we all do.
But it's not high speed anymore. It's like I'm hitting third, fourth gear. I'm not hitting
fifth. But you find that reserve when they get treed, don't you?
Yeah, that's for sure. But I really appreciate you. I mean, you come and met me down here in Virginia. I know you're doing vacation. This is your vacation time.
Yeah, it's all good.
And Crystal's sitting in the truck.
Yeah.
I mean, poor thing.
Yeah.
She's babysitting the dogs, and man, I really appreciate it. If you guys want to follow Luke on social media, it's Canadian Houndsman on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
You don't have a Facebook account.
No.
Yeah, so, you know, look him up, man. He's got some good pictures, some really good-looking dogs, and, you know, that's how we connected, is social media. and started asking questions, talking back and forth. Like I said, it's been a year now, and it just lined up that he was going to be in the States, and I'm not so far away that I couldn't hop in the truck and make the drive up here. So I appreciate it. Any last thoughts?
No, I mean, I'm honored. I appreciate you having me, and appreciate these podcasts in general. You know, the last few years, it's just amazing to me to listen to what you guys are doing and to hear the mistakes other people are making and learn from it, or hear about the houndsmen coast to coast that you never would have met. It's hats off to your channel and all the channels out there. It's a good deal. There's nothing but good that can become of all of this.
And that's one thing that you and I had talked about is I think one of your messages was, I thought I was the only one going through that.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And no, I mean, when you're raising dogs, and again, I just dropped a podcast, and you may have heard it already when this one comes out, but there's always somebody that's been through or had what you've had going on. And don't be afraid to reach out to people and ask questions and talk, and hopefully those people are reciprocal and will help you with that. But yeah, I think that's what started our whole question is you text me and said, hey, I don't feel so bad now. Like,
exactly.
You're going through the same thing. Yeah.
The whole way here, we're listening to podcasts on our trip, and the most recent one, the Trail and Hound one, the recap you guys just
Mark,
did.
yeah.
But awesome stuff. But the last half of that, when you were talking about maybe the downsides to the yo-yo bears and the Latin bear, it really made me sit and think about some mistakes I could have made, or things I could do a little bit different. It's just, like I said, I don't think there's any bad that can come from any of this. The more information, the better for everyone.
And it's just options. Nobody says you have to.
Exactly.
Do it. Nobody says you have to believe in that methodology or that training system. But yeah, you learn along the way, and you see what works best for you, or you see different results from different methods. Like when I first started, of course then. Things were a lot different, but the yo-yo and bear, that gets a dog so visually. The dog's already topped out in prey drive, if everybody understands that. And I had this conversation on the way up here, and I'm going to touch on it before we finish this. So, I was talking to Pappy, and we were talking about a gentleman, and if you guys listen to this and ask yourself this question, has this ever happened to me? So, have you guys used a lot of cage animals, coons, possums, whatever, and showed your dog? So this is what you do, because I've done it. I'm telling you what I've done. You pull up in a field, you have the animal there, you drop the tailgate, the dogs run around. Oh, they see it, they go crazy. You do your thing, and however the process takes place, you put them in the truck. Next week, you do the same thing. Boom. You drop them loose. They run around in the field. They find it. Boom. The next thing you know, you're in the woods. You drop your tailgate, and your dogs leave the truck barking and running circles. Have you ever asked yourself the question, why? Well, you just answered your question.
Exactly.
Is you have overstimulated them by sight, and you have caused, you have put those dogs in context. When I pull up and drop the tailgate, there's going to be something sitting within arm's reach of me that I'm going to be able to have fun with. And of course, I stopped that years ago. But we had that conversation about how people don't pick up on that. They don't pick up that, well, this is why my dogs are acting like this in the hunting environment, is because the training regiment or the scenarios that I used formed a foundation that now I'm going to have a trouble breaking that foundation.
Yeah.
So
I've done we've all done the exact same things for a long time, and even up till very recently. But just because of these podcasts, I look at things from a totally different angle. And I'm not saying I may do it exactly the way you do it, but like you said, it sure makes me stop and think about maybe trying a few different things.
Yep. And I said it in just a recent podcast, and I may have said it with Mark, I don't remember, but having an open mind. And listening to other people's theories and their thought process and their methodology has made me better. And I'm with you. I may not use that technique exactly the way they use it. I tweak it and make it my own.
Sure.
But there are some of those techniques that I'm like, dang, why was I not doing that 20 years ago? I mean, I kick myself in the butt because, I mean, I fool with dogs every day. I mean, I have a dog in my car with me or in the truck with me almost every day.
Yeah.
And there's no excuse for me not having a better quality hound.
Mm-hmm.
And I kick myself a lot because a lot of times things will pop up and I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Like, why didn't I think of that?
And a lot of it is pretty common sense stuff.
Well, I'm not a very creative person. Like, if you tell me to do something, bam, I'm on it.
Mm-hmm.
I got you. But thinking outside the box sometimes is not a strong point for me. Like, it is not. I mean,
the big thing you hit there was having the open mind.
Yep.
Right. You know, and that's dogs. That's bloodlines. That's breeding, training. That's life in general. You know, and with age, I'm trying to be a little more open-minded with everything in life, and it just makes life a little bit easier in general.
Yep.
You know.
Well, Luke, I'm glad that it's interesting you, and I'm glad you're a loyal follower and listener. And pass it on, share it, you know, pass it on to the guys that you're hunting with or interested in it, and we're all going to become better houndsmen.
You bet.
So thank you for helping us teach, train, and learn.
Thank you.